Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
All right, I hope you brought your toothpaste. It's time for another night of Rhone Warriors. We've got some awesome people getting on to the Zoom. My name is Ian Blackburn. I'm the host of Wine LA, now learnaboutwine.com. And we are promoting our events through Zoom into Wine. And we're doing Zooms every Wednesday, every Saturday, and have a really awesome calendar at zoomintowine.com. Or you can check out our class link at learnaboutwine.com. And a lot of our events are known as the Stars of Wine. And this is one of our star events. And I will say it's one of the biggest joys to see it when it works out. We've produced Rhone events in the past, and sometimes it's a small geeky audience of people that we find out there. But this year we really connected, and I really think that if any category of wine benefited from the pandemic, it's the Rhone category, because people started day drinking, and these wines really feel good any time of the day. And there's so many different producers that are coming onto the scenes. And the wine quality has just never been so universally awesome. So really excited about tonight and presenting a really big show. We've got a wonderful audience, over 65 people will be joining us tonight, almost sold out on our Zoom license. So very, very happy to have such a big group. And let's just take a look at who's here while the rest of the audience kind of signs in for a minute. Craig Camp, good to see you, sir. Nat, we'll be talking to you soon. Chuck, how are you, sir? Good to have you. Lisa, good to have you on the Zoom. Representing Santa Monica, and Stephanie down in the South Bay. Hi, guys. Good to see you. South Bay, right? I got that right? Okay, good. Dusty, are you in Ventura tonight? Yes? Is that a yes? Cool. Alicia is here to help moderate our chat box, which I already posted a couple of links in. So take a look, because the auction link is there, as well as the winery offer. And that's the offer from any winery that's participated. And we are not shy to tell you that you can share the auction link and the winery offer with all of your friends. Let's support these guys and gals, and sell some wine for them, raise some money for charity. Our charity 501c3, it's called Unite the United. So if that shows up on your credit card, don't be too surprised. But they are a group of basically concert promoters, because we work with TJ Martell Foundation, which is a music organization. And they're shut down right now for the COVID pandemic. They're a live event charity, and so they went offline to save money. And Unite the United, it allows the money from our auction tonight, 100% of it, to go right through to Children's Hospital Los Angeles, and our continued effort to raise money for Children's Hospital, or Children's Cancer Research at Children's Hospital. And so it's a really big thing for us. We're probably around $600,000 raised career to date, just one little teeny event at a time. And we just keep trying to do our best. And I applaud the wineries, because it's all from the donations of the wineries, and there's different experiences. And there's some really interesting things on there. We'll have some fun looking at that a little bit later. But Alicia, keep it honest. If you see anything we need to bring up, please chime in. Ragnar, are you doing well down there in the South Bay? Cool. Got your wine okay? Pia, everything good? Are you drinking with us tonight, Pia? All right. Aaron, how are you? Good. Helena?
Hi, I'm Helene. And yes, it's my first Zoom with you, along with a couple of my friends, Tracy and Cheryl.
I love it. The opportunity here is to get people all different places together. And we'll just take a look here. Mark, you're in Malibu tonight. Nice, slumming it in the boo. I love it. And I see the wines made it to your room. Awesome, buddy. Melvin J, you and your wife looking good there. You're getting started already.
Yeah, we thought we would. We're out of Orange County.
All right.
And we've been with you before, but not as often as we should. But now that you're doing Saturday nights, we'll probably see you much more often. I've already signed up for a couple more.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Savreji, I think that's S. Avreji.
S.A. Freegee.
S.A. Freegee. Oh, you're good. I hear you.
Steve and Sylvia. We're from Palos Verdes.
All right. Do we get you the wines tonight?
Yes. We've
Excellent.
done all 3 nights. It's fabulous.
Oh, thank you. That feels so good. Thank you. Mark Bryan, thank you for joining us. Where are you zooming in from, Mark? Barnett, how are you, man?
Oh, pretty good. How are you doing, Ian?
All right. We've got some really big wines for you to try tonight. Beautiful stuff, man. I'm excited. Jeff, how are you? You got some different company there. Either that or your wife grew a beard.
Good friend with me, Dave from down the street.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, Ian.
Cool. Tracy Cole, where are you zooming in from?
San Diego.
Ah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Great. And did the wine make it to you?
Yes, it did.
Excellent. You know, we stress out on San Diego. They're failing us down there.
No, they did a good job.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Wendy, thank you for joining us tonight. Great to see you. Cheryl, how are you, Cheryl Toll?
There we go. Yeah, I'm great. I'm from San Diego as well with Helene and Tracy. And I got my wine, no problem. And I'm ready to go.
Beautiful. Hi, John's iPhone. That's a great looking beard, man.
Yeah, thank you. I'm from Visalia, California.
And did we get the wine to you there?
Yes, I've got it all set up here, ready to go.
Sweet.
And just an aside, I have to say a shout out to Mark Blatty.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him since he was 5 years old. So
look at that, Mark. How cool is that?
His godfather says hi. But I'm not his godfather.
But his godfather says hi.
But he'll know what I'm talking about.
You've got him held captive in the closet.
Probably. Well, no. My last name's Raycraft, if that helps.
All right, I'm sure that rang a bell. Yep. Awesome.
I'm a friend of his dad's.
Well, cool. He's got a lot to be proud of. Mark's wines are awesome.
Yeah.
He does some amazing work.
I'll let you move on.
Thanks, man. Jerry Mitchell. Hi.
And Pepper.
Oh, look at that. What type of dog is she? He?
She's Havanese from Havana.
All right. Very nice. We'll play some Cuban stuff later for him. Damien Grinley, you are with Brecken Estate, and I thank you so much. I hope you got the wines okay.
Yeah, all good. They're sitting here and raring to go.
All right, cool. I'm going to tell you, Wednesday night, we got into this whole thing about Mourvèdre. It was really fun. So a lot of people probably hadn't had, we had a straight Mourvèdre. We had 3 blends that were dominant in Mourvèdre. That became like the vein of the conversation. Then last night, we got all into some crazy things about potato guns. We had conversation about different types of aeration and basically like emptying the tank. Give me the word for it. We pull all the wine out of the tank, you leave all the skins, and then you pump back on, but you wait a day to do it so that all that matter gets a lot of oxygen inside, and you bring it back over. And mine was blown last night on the whole topic. That was great. And then we talked about stem inclusion quite a bit, and whole cluster and how much percentage and when and why and all that good stuff. It was really a fun and educational group. And so we'll continue down those paths to answer any questions. but a lot of people on this are on their third night of Rhone warring. So I know that I've definitely stepped up to the whitening version of toothpaste, but I'm feeling pretty good. So now I will say Wednesday we had this great energy, big energy, and I tried to bring it. Friday night, everyone's exhausted. So it took a little while. It took like 3 or 4 wines for people to get really comfortable. But I think tonight everyone's feeling good. We had a beautiful California day, like Chamber of Commerce day here in California. And I'm sure everybody got outside, got a little rest, got a little exercise, and we're gonna rock it right now. We're gonna go first to the Russian River with a white wine, our first white wine of the whole session. How cool is that? And we're gonna go to the Mccain family cellars in Russian River and Charles Mccain. I'm looking for you, Charles.
Ian, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. On behalf of all 4 McCanns, I really do appreciate you having us on here to chat about Rhone varieties. It's
I appreciate that.
No
Well, thank you guys for being so organized and getting us everything and beautiful packaging and everything on your wine. Tell us about your brand. I got a PowerPoint we could go right into. What would you like?
Yeah, we can hit the PowerPoint.
Okay, let's toast, everybody. Cheers to night 3 and to our wine. And I'll touch your glass there. There you go. To everybody else, thank you so much. Cheers to you. All right. Now you are in control, sir. This is our order. We'll go Mccain, Dusty Neighbor, Troon, Laddie, Bouchon, and Brecken. So you're actually making wine in Napa.
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah.
And this first wine is a Russian River Viognier 2019. And it comes from a single vineyard, Katie's Corner Vineyard.
Yeah, so I'll just dive in a little bit about myself real quick before I get into the nuts and bolts of the wine. I'm a first generation winemaker. I thought of, the idea of being a winemaker came to me when I was very young. I was only 15. I did have that aha moment that a lot of people talk about with wine. I opted to cook my family a dinner one time when I was in high school, 15 years old. And to kind of reward myself for my first shot at cooking a nice meal, I asked my parents if we could open a bottle of wine. And, I was 6 years before I could even legally drink it, but they reluctantly said yes. And that kind of experience of having made the meal and then paired the wine with it kind of made an impact on me. So I made my way down to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo a couple years later, graduated in 2011. And anyone who hangs out on the Central Coast knows that Rhone varieties are kind of the star of the show down there. They're everywhere, from Monterey all the way down to Santa Ynez and even down to Ojai and Ventura County. It's just the Rhone zone of California, and I thought that was normal. I thought Rhones were popular everywhere, which I learned the hard way that was not the case. In 2011, after I graduated, I moved up to Napa. I really wanted to move. I really wanted to work for a top-notch winemaker, and Napa Valley has so many of those to go around. So I got lucky. I got an internship at Shapley Winery up on Pritchard Hill, and was lucky enough that their enologist moved on to another winery shortly after harvest in 2011. So they hired me back on to be their enologist. And then over the course of 5 years, I moved on up to assistant winemaker. And then I'm still at William Harrison. In January of 2016, I moved on to William Harrison, and I've been making the wines there in Rutherford for the past 5 years. And as of 2018, I've been making Mccain family's wines at William Harrison. So we are a Napa-based brand as of 2018.
So this is really personal.
Absolutely. Yeah. The family and Mccain family is a big deal. Going left to right on the screen there, you got my dad, Kevin, and my mom, Denise. Cool. And you have my wife, Brittany, who I must publicly thank for making these slides nice and pretty for me. I call her the director of details. That's her official title with our business.
I'll give her props too, because everything came so nice. So it was really well done.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. The whole family pitches in any way that they can. I make the wines. I do my best to sell some wine. Like my wife does a lot of the marketing and stuff. My mom does all of our bookkeeping. She also sells a lot of wine. And my dad does everything that we can't do. He works for a living. He's an electrician. He's a handy guy. He loves, on that photo there, he was hauling grapes that day. He loves doing that kind of stuff. We've been in business since 2014. Our first vintage, we actually did not focus on Rhones. We started focusing on Rhones in 2016. And I lost you guys.
I got you.
Okay.
I can hear you loud and clear too. You might be having trouble on your side, but you still look good and sound good.
Okay, I lost my slide, so.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm telling you, your family's still up there.
Okay.
Bullet points about the family.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go blind then. So we'll just keep on going. So yeah, 2016.
Comment here about a boat. You have to sell the boat.
We, yes, in 2014, we financed the first vintage with selling my dad's beloved ski boat. So it's a labor of love, and we enjoy doing it.
Cool.
So you can move on to the next one, and please remind me what the next one is.
Yeah, that's a big slide about the 2019 Viognier.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so Russian River Valley, really important sub-AVA of Sonoma County. It's very famous for its Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. People are doing some amazing things out there in Burgundian varieties. But I found this vineyard when I was still at Chapelet, called Katie's Corner. And it's on the west side of 101, but it's on the eastern half of Russian River. So it's kind of in a little bit of a warm spot. And that kind of adds to the flavor profile of the wine a little bit. It's not like a Quandreux style Viognier. It's definitely a California style. You can hit the next one, please, Dan.
The big red arrow pointing at probably at your vineyard.
Yeah, so if you see where the town of Windsor is there, right on that highway 101, we're going to be to the west of the highway there.
Yep.
And this vineyard's owned by the Kunde family, which is, a very well-known wine brand over in Glen Ellen, Kenwood. So in Russian River, there are a lot of growers, there are a lot of farmers, but there's a family called the Duttons that farm. They either own or lease or do contract farming for a whole slew of Russian River vineyards, and they farm this vineyard. And the Duttons are fantastic. They are true professionals. This guy Al Steele has been managing the Dutton farming operation for a really long time. He's got to be in his 60s now, so he's an old pro. He really knows what he's doing. This vineyard is absolutely fantastic. It's on a quadrilateral cordon. So without getting too technical, the most popular trellising system in vineyards these days is the vertical shoot positioning. And on vigorous varieties, which a lot of Rhone varieties are vigorous, they'll actually have 4 cordons instead of 2. So it looks just like a VSP, but it's got 4 cordons, and that kind of moderates the vigor a little bit. They crop it absolutely perfectly. The clusters are hardly ever touching each other. I've never seen any kind of mold or rot or anything on the clusters. It's just a really awesome operation. And like I said, I've been making wine from this vineyard since my days at Chapelet, since 2013.
Did you work with Phil Titus over there?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Philip is, he's also my consultant at Harrison. So
good man.
Still work with Phil quite a bit. He's another absolute pro.
We're going to see the
someone to look up.
We're going to see the Chapelet family in a couple of weeks with our Napa series.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I look up to that brand in general. They're awesome.
They are.
So on the winemaking side of things, I make this wine very similarly to making almost any other white wine that I make. I whole cluster press it, so just dumping the whole grape, the whole cluster right into the press, squeezing the grapes, and sending that juice to a tank where I cold settle it for about 48 hours. And after 48 hours, I'll rack it off the primary lees, inoculate it with yeast. I like to use QA23, which is my preferred white wine yeast. Very aromatic.
Is there like a pedestrian name for QA43 or what?
QA23? No, all those names are proprietary. It might be named after the person who cultivated that yeast. I'm not sure. It's a Scott Labs product.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you where they came up with that name. Some yeasts have fanciful names, and then some yeasts have the generic kind of technical name.
And can you tell that you're using that yeast in the final wine? Does it do something for you?
Absolutely, yeah. So when I pick a yeast, I like to pick based off fermentability, and then particularly with white wines, aromatics are really important. So QA23 on Sauvignon Blanc, Gewürztraminer, Riesling, and aromatic whites, which Viognier is an aromatic white in my opinion. It really gives that floral note that I think would be missing without it. I've used other types of yeast in white wines, and you kind of miss out on that floral note. And Viognier is so floral on its own that I really wanted to kind of push that aroma profile. I like to barrel ferment my Viognier, so I send it to barrel after inoculation, and kind of the other side of the aromatic coin with the QA23 is that barrel fermentations are a little warmer than tank fermentations. You don't have cold glycol completely surrounding the wine. It's a more insulated environment, and it does get a little warmer. They end up fermenting at around 64 to 65 degrees, which is too warm for some people, but I think it adds a layer of complexity to the wine. I also think the neutral barrel adds a layer of complexity to the wine. Neutral does not mean that it's not giving anything to the wine. It just means you're not going to get as much new oak.
Right.
Well, it's not new, but you know what I mean. I define neutral as third fill or third year. So the average age of the barrels that I use are about 5 to 6 years old, but for my own personal definition of neutral, I would say third fill and older. And then we age it for 6 months before we bottle, and I like to stir the lees every 2 weeks for the first 3. So right around the first of the year, I'll stop stirring. Stirring the lees offers a whole slew of benefits to a wine like Viognier, in my opinion. You get what are called manoproteins that kind of fill out the wine's texture. Very, very popular in Chardonnay winemaking. I like to say that I kind of take a lot of the Chardonnay skills that I have and put it towards the Viognier. The main differences are I don't put this through malolactic fermentation, and I also don't put any new wood on it. So that would be kind of the main difference. A little shorter aging as well, but we like to get this wine out in the spring. It's a spring summer drinking wine.
How long has this been released for?
This wine's been out since last April.
Okay.
So we're bottling the 20 next month, and then that'll come out in April as well.
Cool. And you've got a lineup that includes Syrah, Mourvèdre, Carignan, Viognier, Grenache, a rosé, and a wine called Morning Glass.
Yeah, so my whole ambition with Mccain family is to help bring Rhone varieties to the front of the line when it comes to popularity in the American wine market. I know in California, Rhones are experiencing a really good time right now, I think. But particularly on the North Coast, we're like Napa Valley, it's all Bordeaux, and everyone makes a Chardonnay. And then over in Sonoma, it's all kind of Pinot and Chardonnay. There's a lot of good ground up here for Rhones. So making North Coast or Northern California Rhones popular is what I'm hoping to do. Our reserve tier wine, our flagship wine is our Syrah, and that's from Napa Valley. And then we have a lighter bodied white, so the rosé of Grenache. And then we have, the Viognier is the more rich white. And then everything in between. I've been experimenting with all different types of varieties, and the Carignan is going to be bottled next month. That's a new wine for us. We've never made a Carignan before, sort of an adopted Rhone. And then the Morning Glass it's a red blend. It references what a lake looks like at dawn. We used to take a family vacation to Lake San Antonio every year, and we would call the morning ski run the Morning Glass. And the double entendre, kind of a benefit, is people think it means morning glass of wine, which is not a problem. Not a problem with me at all. But the Morning Glass,
I was going to salute you for being one of the first I've ever seen to attack the breakfast category.
A couple wines. A couple wines are in the breakfast category for sure. The rosé leads the pack there. We try to wait till 10 a.m. to crack into the rosé, but sometimes we don't make it that far.
I get you. And all your social media resources and website and
Wine and Mccain family. If you hit us up, my mom Denise will be responding to you, and you can follow us on all of our social media.
Cool. And are you guys open for tastings?
Yes, we are now. Yeah, we're over at an awesome collective called Feast It Forward. We're across the street from the Oxbow. For people who are familiar with Napa, we have this Oxbow public market here on First and McKinstry, and Feast It's on McKinstry Street. We're one of, I believe, 15 vintners at Feast It Forward, and we just got the green light to start doing outdoor tastings again a couple weeks back. And we are slated to move down into the red tier, I believe, on March 10th. So then when that happens, then we can do some indoor stuff. So we're getting back into it. It's been a rough winter, but we're excited for some nice weather and seeing people out.
Well, the chat is already alive with hashtag breakfast wine, and I think it's a good idea. And I will say on the Viognier, really well done, man. It's got a really nice tension to it. It's not blousy and overly Chardonnayed out. It's got a really good texture, and that wood restraint is really visible. I think I get a little of that Syrah right behind the floral. I feel it's kind of coming in right behind there and giving it a nice backbone, and really beautifully done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I take the Viognier very seriously, and I hope it comes through in the glass. It should be an elegant yet rich wine, and I think the temptation to leave Viognier on the vine past the point of no return is kind of strong for a lot of people. But I pick at a pretty relatively moderate Brix level. A Chardonnay Brix level 23 and a half. And the alcohol is always, mid to low 14s. This one I think is 14.1. Yeah, 14.1. So, it's a refined variety when it's not pushed to the limit.
Well, now the chat's asking for a Viognier tasting event. So I think a lot of people would be shocked at the range of white Rhone varietals that are available too. And even some of the classics, a lot of people haven't tried a Condrieu or a Northern White, Northern Rhone White, which is Viognier. And so this grape variety, if I remember correctly, almost gone. Like it was kind of made a resurgence because of wine clubs starting to make small productions of Viognier. I think Joseph Phelps gets a little bit of credit for being very big Rhone ranger back in the day, and that's the story that I was told anyway. And I don't know if you have a different one, but Viognier is certainly here to stay, as are all the Rhone whites. But this is a really well done version. So thank you for leading off our program. Now we're going to head to meet Dusty Neighbor. My pleasure, buddy. I hope you taste along with us and comment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Check out the chat box. You got some nice comments in there. So let's see who's else is in the room now. We're hitting just about 60 on the audience size. I know a couple people that are going to watch this later, which is always an option. You can get our Zoom kit, and we put this on Facebook Live right now. We also put it on YouTube video and post that to our website. So if you ever need to watch that, you can go to Facebook and it's on the website Wine LA, which is being rebranded, by the way, to Zoom into Wine. So at some point in time, that's what we'll say up there, just as soon as the Facebook gods let us change the name. So with that, we're going to head over to Dusty Neighbor, Ventura. I believe Dusty's where you're sitting right now, or
Camarillo.
Camarillo. All
That's
right.
where the winery is. I'm actually physically in Westlake Village right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Moving to wine number 2, and Dusty, tell us, how did you get started in wine, man?
Being a raging alcoholic like the rest of everybody, I had a pretty big wine collection, and by happenstance, there happened to be a custom crush like a mile from my house. And I just went down there in 2014 and talked to them a little bit and wanted to do some wine on my own, and it just absolutely snowballed from there. Anybody that knows me knows I take stuff way too seriously. And the idea was just to make my own cab at that point. And here we are 7 years later, 3 brands, 15 different varieties, yada, yada, yada. You know how it goes.
Like collecting, a closet full of shoes, man. So if you get a bigger closet, it's getting
exactly
more shoes. Who are some of the people you make wine with out there? I know quite a few of the folks in Camarillo Custom Crush land. And
yeah, so when I originally started, we were actually in Westlake Village by my house. We've since moved out of that Custom Crush, and we are in our own winery now. So I'm not in Camarillo Custom Crush. I've never actually made wine out of there. So we're just in our own little building, do it on our own.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, really cool packaging.
Thank you.
At home, I'll show you the label in a minute because you can't see.
There's a slide of the label too. So.
Okay, well, let's get into that.
Yeah, so this is just a picture of our winery, our concrete tank. We call it the Hippo. That houses, every year, it houses our Grenache. We do a Grenache that is completely aged in concrete. We don't actually ferment it in there. We just do the aging in there. And then there's a little 2.5 ton fermenter next to that. The woman sitting behind me is Karen Langer, my girlfriend and my partner. She is responsible for the Bolt 2 wines that some of you might have seen. When Rhone Warriors was in person last year, she actually poured at her own table and had her own wines out there. But yeah, that's just our glamour shot.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you're a good winemaker, you have beautiful wives and girlfriends. So that's the story we're all learning right now.
Okay, so to get into the wine a little bit, this is our 2018 Syrah. We do one Syrah under the Dusty Neighbor label that comes from Kimsey Vineyard. And Kimsey Vineyard is really responsible for the quality of this wine. It is an unbelievable vineyard. Kimsey actually does a small production of Syrah, Grenache, and they do a Rhone white blend, which is usually Roussanne, Marsanne, Grenache Blanc, and Viognier. And then they sell a lot of their fruit. Bill Kimsey, who owns it, only wants to do a very small amount of his own, and then the rest of it is sold off. And the list of winemakers in this vineyard is like a who's who of Santa Barbara County. There's Matt Dees actually runs the vineyard. He makes the wines for Kimsey, and you might know him from Ponata and the Hill. And then Dave Potter's in there, Steven Cyril, Max Marshock, all these big names of Santa Barbara County make their Syrahs out of this vineyard. This particular wine comes from Block 7 and Block 9. Block 7 is right there on the right side of your screen in the middle of the vineyard, and that's a massal selection of about 8 different clones. I talked to Ruben Sorlozano, who farms this vineyard, about what clones are in there, and they don't actually know, and they don't really care. The second half of this wine comes from the Block 9, which is all the way at the bottom, and that's an Alban clone of Syrah. This vineyard is situated at the base, I would call it, of Ballard Canyon, which is like the southernmost area of Ballard Canyon. So you're closest to the 246 and kind of the furthest away from Los Olivos and closer to Buellton. It gets a ton of influence from the Santa Rita Hills AVA. It kind of sits right at the exit of that transverse mountain range. So this site, Matt and I have talked about what gives this site its most expression, and we really think it's a climate-driven vineyard. It's usually foggy. He calls it coal, and for Ballard Canyon, it is. It's foggy till about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and it burns off, and we get a lot of sunshine in the afternoon. Heavy clay soils, ripening is never an issue, but you can make all different kinds of Syrahs from this vineyard, from big, heavy, deep Syrahs to lighter, early pick whole cluster Syrahs. This particular one was kind of in the middle. We did 2 separate picks. The Block 7 always ripens about 2 weeks before I'm sorry, I have that reversed. Block 9 always ripens about 2 weeks before Block 7. So we picked that early October, and then Block 7 was picked in middle of October. One thing that was unusual for us for this wine, we completely destemmed everything. We didn't use any whole cluster in this wine. The previous vintage was about 25%. Subsequent vintages have been 100% whole cluster. As far as why, I don't know. I go with my intuition. And if I don't feel that the wine would benefit from it, it doesn't get it. This is a picture of the label on the left. It's done by an artist named Ethan Stewart. Ethan Stewart was a friend of Karn, who you saw on the first slide. They went to art school together in Chicago, and then Ethan wound up moving out to Santa Monica, and we reconnected, and we used his art for a lot of our labels. And as you can see behind me, if you see me talking, that's one of the pieces that he's done for us that we use on our Grenaches. We use different details off of that painting for our Grenaches. This particular one, it's called My Grandpa Was a Smoker, and that is the entire painting. You're looking at the whole painting. On the left, that's just a shot of our punch-ons. We like to age our Syrah in punch-ons. Having said that, this one was not aged in punch-ons. This was done in neutral French oak. Pretty standard winemaking for us. We don't really do much. Native fermentations, neutral oak. Wine goes straight to barrel after press, sits on its gross lees for its entire life. We never rack or do anything like that. We pray for reduction. We got 1 barrel to reduce for this wine, and it didn't really manifest in the bottle. I really love a slight flinty reduction in Syrah, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It might still come back. This wine is still a baby.
Could you promote that by going to a Stelv enclosure?
No, in the bottle. I don't know if it's going to manifest in the bottle. But we don't use Stelvins. We're all cork, so it wouldn't really be an option for me.
I just wonder if you could achieve your desired reduction note. I
actually like to get it early on. Syrah is notorious for reduction, and so if it happens early on, right when we go to barrel, that's the best time to get it, because then it really integrates beautifully as long as it doesn't go haywire. And we did have 1 barrel that went slightly reductive, but like I said, it didn't really manifest in the bottle, but that's okay. This is a shot of Karn. This is actually taken this year. When we do 100% whole cluster, we hop in there with a good old foot stomp just to get some juices flowing. Like I said, we use native fermentations, so we don't inoculate. So got to be careful with VA when you're doing that, to get the fermentations going and get them warm so that they're protecting themselves, get them active. So we like to foot tread them a little bit to get some juices out of it, to get that fermentation going, and then leave as much as possible whole clusters, so we get keep those berries intact, get that enzymatic fermentation going inside the berries. And then I do kind of a progressive maceration where as the fermentation moves along, we get more aggressive with the maceration. So we start out with a little foot tread. After that, we have enough juice in the tank to pump over Or actually with Pinot Noir, what we do is we actually just drain it into a bucket and we just pour the bucket on top really early on. Then we start with the pump overs, and then later in the fermentation, about at least halfway through, once it's really going and it's warm, we start with punch downs. And I just think it kind of makes sense to me to do it that way. And I like that progression. It seems like it moves with the wine and you're in tune with the wine. That was picked this year. That's Kimsey Vineyard Syrah. As you can see, we don't do a lot of it. We do 2 tons. We get about, out of that, we get 2 punch-ons and 1 225. So we get about 120, 125 cases out of 2 tons.
Beautiful looking fruit.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, gorgeous fruit. I mean, that vineyard is really, like I said, it's the reason for the wine. This is just a text sheet on the wine, a little bit of geeky information. It is 50% Block 9 Alban, 50% Maceration selection. Everything is always hand-picked. As you can see, the picks were about 2 weeks apart. It's been about 19 months in neutral French oak, and we never rack it off its lees. It was blended with 2% Viognier for, Côte Rôtie has always been my inspiration for Syrah. So we do it in a Côte Rôtie style. We do often do a Viognier co-ferment as well, but we only do that if it works out with the picking dates. The Viognier tends to ripen a little early to do that. So this one was just a straight 2% blend. pH, fairly standard for us to have a relatively low pH on our red wines. We tend to pick earlier than most. I'm usually one of the first out of that vineyard. We keep our SO2 low. We don't fine or filter anything. And because of that, that wine is obviously vegan. But yeah, there you go. 2018 Syrah.
Beauty.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about this wine, I'm tasting it right now. I haven't had it. It's been in bottle for about a year. It's a baby. I mean, it's got a long way to go. It's very youthful. It's still super fresh. There's a lot of floral notes, boysenberry, candy, lilacs, things, candied aromas, and the lavender and lilac is there, a little bit of pepper behind it. But I think this wine, I don't say this often. I try to make my wines approachable early, but I think this wine could use 3 to 5 years of age on it.
And that's always been kind of a challenge for Syrah anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
High quality stuff. And then this, I'm going to be tasting with Matt Deeds at Kimsey on a Zoom here on March 17th. And we're going to be tasting wines from the 2015 vintage because they know where their wines are at as well.
Right.
They can release them young, but they basically, you're buying them and they're going to ask you, why don't you hold this for 10 years?
Yeah. And I mean, you guys saw the production. We don't do much of it and it goes fast. And that, I'm always promoting the current vintage. So it's kind of fun to go back on these wines after a few years and try them. I think this one will definitely benefit. The easiest way to tell is watch it evolve in the glass. That's why I love, just pouring it straight away and watch it evolve. And right now, we've been on for, I don't know, an hour or so. I've had this open and it's already, much more integrated. It's a little less disjointed than it was when I first poured it. So it's definitely got a long life ahead of it.
Does anybody have any questions? We were throwing down some pretty technical stuff there. So if we say anything that you've never heard before, or you want to, kind of break that out a little bit further, please don't feel like you're asking a dumb question because probably everybody's thinking the same thing. He didn't co-ferment the Viognier, which means they would put the white grapes with the red at the same time. He had to add the Viognier later as a blending step. And you're thinking white with red wine, maybe that's a pretty common thing for Syrah, and really get some interesting, I don't know, what kind of notes, I mean, the floral kind of influences the Syrah?
Yeah, I think it just complements Syrah really, really well. And where that comes from is in the Northern Rhone, way back when they had Viognier actually just planted, commingled in the vines with Syrah, and they would just pick it all and throw it all in the vat together. And that's why the AOC originally allowed for Viognier and other white grapes, Marsanne, Roussanne, to be in those blends because they were co-planted in the vineyards. It wasn't until later and until the science evolved, where the idea of co-pigmentation and making the wine darker, keeping the color more stable, things like that started to come to fruition, and people learned why it actually was such a good thing. So like you mentioned, you can either co-ferment or blend. And actually in 2017, we did both. We co-fermented about 4% and then blended about 3%. And they do two different things. In the co-ferment, you don't get any of the aromatics or flavor of the Viognier. It's done more as a color stabilization step. For the blend though, it definitely can round out a rough Syrah. It brings, like you said, floral notes to it. It brings a little tiny perception of sweetness that you might get with a new barrel. And I think it complements those cracked pepper, meaty, bloody characteristics of the variety really, really well. So it's just a common thing, in the Northern Rhone, and now even here, it's very common to see it in Syrah.
And what was the percentage of stem inclusion in this particular wine?
This particular wine was 0. Okay. This was all destemmed. So this is, kind of like a shot, all destemmed.
Okay, got it. Yeah, it didn't seem very, very stemmy, but very youthful.
Yeah.
And sometimes stemminess can create a youthful green kind of streak in the wine. But
for sure. Yeah, and in 2020 we did 100% whole cluster, and I actually just tried that wine. It's actually just finishing up Malo right now. So vibrant and bright because of that stem inclusion. It adds another layer to the wine that I enjoy. Cool.
And if people want to come visit you, is there a special password?
No, we're not open to the public. We do all of our sales online, but I'm super available. You can always email me. You can even call me. I mean, when you get an email back from me, my phone number is on that email. But we don't have a tasting room, and we don't generally allow people into the winery.
Well, thank you very much, Dusty. Really nice to see you and get the backstory there. Very cool. And you make a couple of other wines. We should promote that as well. You make some Cabernet and some other varieties too.
Yeah, so we have 3 different brands. The Dusty Neighbor brand is kind of the higher brand. We make, with the Dusty Neighbor brand, we do Pinot Noir and Chardonnay from the Santa Rita Hills. We do Syrah and a Viognier from Ballard Canyon. And we do a Cabernet from Los Olivos District, Amalfi Vineyard. In the past, we've done a Cabernet from Paso Robles, but we no longer source from Paso Robles. We're all Santa Barbara County. And then we have a lower tier of wine, NSO by Dusty Neighbor, which stands for No Special Occasion. All of those wines are $20 and less. Continually find myself getting undercut by my own wines because those NSO wines they score really well and they do really well, and you just can't beat the price for Santa Rita Hills AVA and Ballard Canyon. And
that is the challenge. People will trade down a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. But I definitely had to hit 2 different demographics when we started. The Dusty Neighbor brand kind of took off really quickly, and I needed to make a wine that was available. And for all of my friends that didn't understand the mailing list and allocation system, they just wanted to buy wine. They just wanted to support Karin and I. So we developed that brand really with them in mind, and it's kind of taken off. It's a very cool way to get really high quality wines into people's hands. And then Karin has her own label called Bolt 2 Wines, which is BOLTTO. And her sister does all the label art. I do all the winemaking, and she curates all those wines, decides what she wants to make, and then we collaborate on putting those together. So for her, it's kind of a negociant model. She kind of puts it together and bottles it and packages it and sells it.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for being on our Zoom and for showing off a very, very sexy Syrah there. We're going to move up to Oregon with Craig Camp and Troon Vineyard. And Craig, thank you very much for participating. Good to see you again as well.
A pleasure to be here. Hello from Oregon. We're always the one Oregonian in the crowd, so it's fun to be here.
I've followed you for a long time. You were with a Napa brand for many years. I really hadn't talked to you or met you up until about a month ago. So now I get to twice in 1 month. That's kind of cool.
We've been close social media friends for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm super excited to present this wine with people. So let's get into it, because it's a really nice kind of gear shift going up to Applegate in Oregon. And I think when people think Oregon, Pinot Noir comes to mind, but did you know they make Syrah?
Yeah, we make a bit of Pinot Noir here in Oregon, but not where we are. It's a big state, and I think that people don't realize the diversity of Oregon wine, and so it's wonderful to be able to get that information out and tell people that there's a lot more to Oregon than just Willamette Valley.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's go ahead and get into the Zoom PowerPoint here and show it off. And I'd love to, if we could actually just kind of actually stop for 1 second and just let people taste this wine, and maybe put some comments in the chat box and experience it together here.
Yeah, and I'd like to say joining me tonight, also from Oregon, is our winery sommelier, Nate Winters.
Hey, Nate.
Will be watching closely the chat, so he'll respond to any questions you have right away.
Cool. Nate, that's a cool screen behind you. Is that a screen, or are you actually at the fortress like that? That looks like a fortress up there.
Now, this is the tasting room window at Rhone in the Applegate Valley. That's not currently, but we'd just like to tease you.
Okay.
It's not quite that light here right now.
Right. Is there a little snow up there right now?
On the mountain peaks, there is, yes, for sure. Not at the winery, but above us, which is a good place for it to be.
Vivian Chow, how are you? Good to see you.
Yes, I am.
Oh, excellent. And where are you zooming in?
I'm in California. I'm in LA area.
Thank you. Jim Berlinger, good to see you both again.
Thanks, Ian. Good to be here with you.
All right. And you got your organ in the glass?
We do. We do. Cheers.
Cheers to you. Jason, good to see you again, sir. Thanks for joining us. Josh and Jen, how are things? Bravo.
Good. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Glad you could do it. On my screen, I see Erica Mccain. I don't see the whole tribe tonight, Erica. Are they all on here?
Yes. Emily, Jerry, Andrea, Mike, Pia, and Clarissa's kind of big brotherish tonight.
All right, cool. Well, you guys were doing it up last night, so I'm looking forward to some more. Kent, how are you? You got the dog with you tonight.
My wife with me too. So Ian, we figured out the sound on this. So nice to hear you. Thanks for this great event. And it's been great the whole time. Appreciate it. And we are actually on Lake Erie shoreline tonight in Ohio, and it is froze thick. So remember that in California.
Yowzer. Right next to you on my screen is Alexandra Ketterling. Hi, Alexandra. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Are you in West Hollywood by chance?
East Hollywood.
East Hollywood. Okay. Well, Alex does all the hard work for us of getting the wineries together, like that are a little bit like herding cats, and she does a great job. And she's the reason why we're able to do so many of these. And thank you for all you do, Alexandra.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Fantastic winemaker up in Sonoma. Carol Shelton is on the Zoom with us tonight. Carol makes Rhones, and she's participating with us as a consumer. And I'd love for you to chime in too, Carol. David K., how are you tonight, buddy?
We're good, man. We're all just really enjoying it. It's just such a great event you put on here. This night 3 is just like it just continues to get better and better, and loving these wines. So yeah, thank you. We're good.
What did Maria make for dinner?
Oh, we just had this boring old salad tonight, but whatever she does is pretty damn good. She, being the Italian, there's no matter what she does, it's just.
I waited too long to find you because usually right at 7 o'clock, I'm watching you eat something.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that to you tonight.
I'm always up for it. It's nice to look at other people's cooking. That should be like a whole Zoom, just like other people's food.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I just wanted to shout out to our Oregon neighbors there. I love the wine. My son just got accepted at OSU. Spencer's going to. We gotta go to the home of the Beavers. So
Beavers. Beavers.
So we'll be definitely making some trips up, and I can't wait because I'm a big fan of Syrah, and I'm pleasantly surprised how great this wine is. It just, I love it. So well done.
Well, my good buddy Clay Morrison's not going to be happy to hear that. You know, he's a duck.
I know.
So, Craig, take it away. Let's go into the PowerPoint.
Okay, great. We'll start off, as I mentioned, so we're in the Applegate Valley, and if you'll look at the map of Oregon there, in the extreme southwestern corner, you'll see the blue area, and the Applegate is the dark blue area within that area. So we're about an hour drive from California and about 60 miles from the Pacific Ocean, although it takes a lot longer to drive there than you might think, because we are in the Siskiyou Mountains. So the winery itself is about at 1,400 feet. And as you know, you'll see in northern Oregon, of course, you can see the Willamette Valley up there towards Portland. And we're kind of in between what you would see in Northern California and Willamette Valley in style. So Willamette Valley is cooler and wetter than we are, and more oriented towards Pinot Noir, of course. And then Napa further south is ideal for Cabernet, but we're in between, and it's been really ideal here for Southern French varieties. So that's all we have planted. We have an unusual growing season here because at this far north and at the altitude we're at, we get about just over 70 minutes more sunshine on the summer solstice in a day than Napa would get. But our season is much shorter, much more compacted. But that extra hours of photosynthesis allows us to ripen these varieties. But then an interesting thing happens at harvest, because we're picking well into October, is that the days get extremely short. So we're able to really hang the fruit for a long time, because during those short days, the photosynthesis really comes almost to a halt, but we can let the fruit hang and develop flavors. So we get a rich style with high acidity. So we have very big diurnal shifts. We are a biodynamic estate winery, which you can, the famous cow horns there in the middle, which we can go into later.
We're gonna have to talk about that in a little bit at some point, because I want people to understand what that commitment is. To biodynamic is that is a big commitment, and but I do have a question back on that map. When you are like driving around, is it easy to go back into California? How far is that?
That's that line you just drew down there is like I-5.
Okay.
And so I-5 runs straight up through us. We're less than a half an hour drive off of I-5.
Oh, wow.
So we are about a 5-hour drive from Portland and just over a 6-hour drive from San Francisco.
Okay. So it took us about, I don't know, 10 to 12 hours probably if we
from where, down from LA. Yeah. So, I mean, but we are, this is it's a really diverse area. There's a lot going on here. There's Crater Lake, of course, any kind of outdoor mountain activity, hiking, fishing, camping you like. And then also the famous, of course, Ashland Shakespeare Festival and Brit Music Festival in the summer. So it's a big tourist area for Californians.
Nice. All right. Well, I'll clear that cow horn circle for later.
Yeah. So then on the other side there, you see we practice no-till agriculture. That's a new vineyard of Mourvedre. We've replanted the entire estate, and we'll go into that a little bit more. You can go to the next slide. So this is the estate. So we're a 100-acre property. We have about 50 acres of vineyards. We are on 3 main soil types within this block. So the Siskiyou Mountains are not volcanic. These were pushed up against the coast by tectonic plates. So we don't have volcanic soils. We have these various loams of gravel that come from decomposed granite and river and ocean sediments. And as a loam, it's almost equally divided between clay, sand, and silt. So you get a lot of different, you get the positive aspects of clay holding water, but with the sand and the silt, you get a whole different kind of soil structure. It runs southwest slopes on ideal exposure, and we get extremely low humidities here, extremely low humidity. So I mean, you'll see a humidity in the summer like 6%. So we have a really low pressure area, so it's an ideal place to farm biodynamically. So we began the transition to biodynamics in 2016, and biodynamics is a complete holistic farm approach. So on our farm, besides the 50 acres of vineyard, we now have over 200 French clone, heritage clone cider apple trees. We have a 2-acre garden. I mean, I suppose 2 acres is a little big to call it a garden, but we call it a garden where we're developing a heritage seed program. We have various habitats. We're doing a bee rewilding project. We don't take the honey, but we're attracting and rewilding honeybees into the property. And we grow our own hay for producing compost and so forth. So it's a totally integrated farm where we really try to bring back, we're not trying to bring anything in from the outside anytime we can, which you can see there. So in 2019, we achieved all our certifications where we're Demeter Biodynamic, we're CCF Organic, and next week we're finishing the process of applying for the new regenerative organic certification. So we'll have all 3 certifications, and that's more of a commitment. We want to communicate what we're doing on the property, that it's all estate fruit and all a big commitment to regenerative farming on the entire property.
Isn't CCOF California?
It is, but these certifying agencies do multiple states. So CCF would be doing organic certification all over the country, as would Oregon Tilth. So here you can see some of the property, and again, the no-till system. But in the middle, you can get a look at our compost piles. So we're very fortunate that our next door neighbor is a organic dairy. They've been organic since 2004, and they have several thousand head of cattle. So manure is not a problem for me, and it's right next door. So we actually, I don't know if anybody's ever bought anything like for yard work, you buy the yard, soils and things like that. But we purchase over 800 yards of fresh manure every year from this, and then produce over 220 tons a year of biodynamic compost, which is then added to our soil. So that's the kind of the heart of the regeneration process, is a deep commitment to composting and rebuilding soil microbiology, which is part of what the plants that you see do, the legumes and all the various brassicas and things like that we're planting throughout the property. So crop rotation is not very easy to do in a perennial crop like a vineyard. So we do that through our cover crops. So even though it's no-till, we are reseeding every year with no-till seed drills to add and bring in more diversity throughout the vineyard every year.
Did I hear you correctly? You have to buy your neighbor's shit.
Indeed, and if you knew how much dairy farmers were making these days, you know they were very pleased to sell their shit.
Oh, fantastic!
They give us the neighbor discount, and deliveries included.
Nothing's better at discount than local shit. That's
yes. Well, but you know, and that's key to biodynamics. It's so important, and we're so lucky because they're right here. They're in the same valley. They're literally in the same soil types. The cattle are eating organic food. They're out grass fed. So the whole point of the compost is to bring that microbiology, and we want to bring the microbiology of the valley back in. So it's as close as possible as we could do to growing it ourselves. I mean, we're integrating sheep and chickens and things like that, but right now, especially with the replanting, there's no way we could generate enough manure to do the composting that we need to do. So bringing it in locally is great. So here on the winemaking side, it's really minimal winemaking. So it's all native yeast ferments. There's no additives of any kind to the fermenters. It's all hand punch downs. You can see the winemaker Nate Wall there with one of our upright fermenters, which we use for Syrah. Now for Syrah, we're doing a range of ferments. So about a third would be 30% whole cluster, about a third would be 50% whole cluster, and about a third of our harvest would be 100% whole cluster. And then we're making our blends out of those. But we like these wooden uprights for Syrah and Mourvedre in particular because of they're prone to reduction, as Dusty brought up before, where this helps us to integrate oxygen into the wine naturally. So we use no new oak. As I mentioned, there's no additives, enzymes, any kind of product used in the winemaking, and we use very low doses of sulfur just prior to bottling, about 30 parts or less per million. You'll also see that we do Amphora Fermentations. So we're making those are from Vermentino that you see there, where we make both a white wine and an orange wine in Amphora.
Nice. It's cool. I did a Zoom not too long ago with a family that purchased Houet.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. Well, that's a good winery.
Yeah, and they're biodynamic as well.
Yes.
They're taking their natural fermentations to another level. They're bringing the fermentation vessel right out into the actual block where the grapes are picked, and doing these like in vineyard fermentations. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool, because that also helps you keep your yeast maybe non-competing and things like that.
I've read about that. Right? It's probably challenging enough for us right now, but I mean, we're picking. I mean, the from when we pick it to when it arrives in the winery is about 5 minutes. So it's not. We feel like we're pretty closely connected with the biology of the area.
Sure.
So a couple of things here. That what you see there, the holding up is a bottle of of a pet nat that we make from Tannat. So everything we have on the estate are Southern French varieties, and it ranges from the grapes of southwestern France, like Tannat and Nicorette, things like that, to all of the classic Shelton varieties, plus Vermentino, which of course is called Rhone in France, and we just feel that these were ideal. We did soil studies when we came in here in 2016, looked at the climate, combined that with our own experience to really focus on these varieties. So we've been working on replanting and redeveloping only those varieties. We'll end up with 19 varieties at the end, and then you see the hand punch downs going in. So we're either using those wood uprights or as you're standing there, the small 1 ton macro fermenters, and that's an orange wine being made in the middle too.
Huh. Cool. And this is what we're having tonight.
So that's what you're having tonight. So we make Syrah is really an ideal variety for this area. I mean, probably our biggest threat is spring, spring frost because of the altitude and our northerly location. But Syrah, it buds a little later, but it ripens. It has a relatively short growing season, so we're able to fully ripen it every year. So we are planting more Syrah. We've planted 3 more blocks with a range of clones. We're working with the new Ontav clones, and the idea, we planted the Syrah blocks in 3 different soils, so that we would have even a more diverse range of possibilities. So so we got the wines coming from 3 different soils on this site, plus the fact that we're doing these different ranges of whole cluster ferments to make blends. And blends in general, whether it's within a variety or multiple variety, are really key to what we're doing here. In fact, probably our largest production wines will be our Rhone variety blends.
Well, it's got a really cool nose right now. I think it's really showing off that whole cluster element. What is our alcohol on this wine, Craig?
That is for high 14s. I forget exactly what I have to go back to 18. 14.
Yeah.
Nate can do it. Nate's selling that now. I'm already worried about
It's either 14.5 or 14.1.
Yeah.
Well,
which is maximum velocity for us. That's a ripe year.
Yeah, I would imagine, but I thought it was in the 13s. I mean, it's pretty restrained. It's got a really cool nose. It's super refreshing in the mouth, wonderful acidity and tension, and really another, one of the cool parts of this is, being able to taste across different locations is showing how kind of the lens of that place really displays itself. And, we've got Santa Barbara tonight. We've got a wine from the Russian River. We'll have a couple here in a moment from Paso, and we have a Los Angeles vintner next. So it's going to be really fun to keep comparing and contrasting styles here and sharing experiences. But I'd love to get in the car right now and come and visit. And what, are you guys open?
We just reopened. We've been able to do outdoor tastings for a while, but I don't know if you've been up here at this time of year. It's not the most pleasant time to do an outdoor tasting in the mountains of Oregon.
It sounds good to me. I could use a little weather.
But we are with limited visitation, but we are open, and we're open 7 days a week. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you, Craig. Wonderful.
Thank you.
And let's see if there's any questions before we move into LA. And Alicia, anything we should be taking note of?
It looks like Nate has been on the chat answering all our questions. So he was explaining to us what orange wine is.
Okay, cool. Good job, Nate. And I'll just pull up the auction right now. If Alex, have you had a chance to look at the auction recently?
I have not. I don't have access to look at it, but I'm going
to
to
the back of the house. That's right.
Yeah.
But I know coming into tonight, Lisa, you are doing a really good job of representing. She's gotten her bids in early, but as we always, try to encourage you to get your bid in, get outbid if you can. That just raised a bunch of money, and that's our ideas here. There's some really nice bottles and lots available. There's some really cool experiences, and I think as of last night, everything has multiple bids. So that's really exciting. This looks like it's going to be one of our bigger auctions that we've had on the Zoom environment. Usually I'm able to yell out, 5 minutes before we're closing, who's where, and get the people behind it. It's a little less intense this time. So we'll send it out tomorrow before it closes to everybody that's on this Zoom tonight to thank you and make sure you get a last look at it. because we don't want these things to go below retail. It's okay to make it a donation, but get the money for the charity for at least for the retail of the wines. But right now they start off half retail and they go up from there. So get in there and see if there's any deals for yourself, and bid something up, pay extra if you can, if you have it. But this is a really great way to get some wine for gifts even. It's a perfect gifting opportunity. All right, Mr. Blatty, are you ready, my friend?
I am. How's it going?
Good, Mark. You enjoying yourself there?
Oh yeah, we decided to. We have a baby due on March 22nd. So this is our little baby moon. So we drove down from LA down to Malibu, and we're here just at the Malibu Beach Inn, having a little wine and enjoying ourselves.
Awesome. So, and can you hear the crashing of the waves and everything right there?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
it's one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah, it's quite nice. Quite nice.
Awesome. Well, for those of you, and I want to ask the audience, how many of you have tried a wine from Byron Blatty before tonight? All right, cool. Well, this guy, Mark, he is working his butt off at making some fantastic Los Angeles wines. I'm gonna let him tell you what that means, but he's really out there finding some really cool little vineyards, and he's got an awesome touch with the wines. He's got some great marketing. And Mark, I'm gonna take you into the PowerPoint, but
perfect. Yeah, we'll just I'll cue you on those slides. Our slides are pretty straightforward. I wanted to say, this is the type of event. Thanks for having us. We always feel. There we go.
There you go.
All right.
I'm trying to get my screen back up there.
Perfect.
Muted you on accident, but
no worries.
Keep going with that comment because I cut you out.
Yeah, no worries. I'll look for the slides to pop back up. We're always very humbled to be in a conversation like this. 6 wines tonight, and we're talking about every major wine region in California, and I know Oregon as well, which is, becoming quite well known as well for having fantastic wines. So, anytime that we can even be in the company of wines from Sonoma, Santa Barbara, Paso, we're humbled and flattered. So we thank you guys for having us. We're drinking our wine tonight. It's called the Agenda. So I'll tell you a little bit about just kind of. It's obviously Rhone. So 75% Syrah and 25% Tannat. If you want to, we'll come back to the wine in a minute. Ian, if you want to kind of rifle through the slides here, they're just kind of some images to give you an idea of who we are. Okay, so that's me, obviously, my wife, Jenny. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. Jenny moved here from Chicago 20 some odd years ago. And we fell in love with each other first, and then we fell in love with wine. And I think like everybody here who makes wine, somewhere along the way it clicked, and you started to become more and more obsessed and more serious about making wine. So we started in 2014. We both have backgrounds in television production, and in 2014 we made our first vintage. And if you want to flip over Ian to the next slide, we do wines from Los Angeles, and we work with 7 or 8 or so vineyards in LA County. We farm one ourselves, and we do about 15, maybe even 16 different varietals now at this point that we work with. So our wines are predominantly blends. We currently do about 800 cases a year. We cut that back last year, like I'm sure some of the other folks on this Zoom did, with the COVID of it all. But that 800 cases is spread out about 12 to 15 wines a year now at this point. So tiny small lots. Agenda, which we're drinking tonight, is sort of the top end of our production at 97 cases. That's about the max. You can roll right over in the next slide there. I like to show this picture of LA when we're presenting wines on Zoom, because usually the first thing when we tell people we make wines from LA, they think where in LA, which we can talk and will talk about, but they also think like LA, like it doesn't register that you could or should grow wine in LA. Forget about making it, growing. These are Los Angeles grown wines. And this picture, I love to show it because it reminds us the great diversity of Los Angeles and its climates, right? We have everything from Malibu beach outside to snow on the mountains. And LA County is obviously a massive place. So there's no shortage of these like special climates. And it's interesting because now we're starting to get some momentum. You know, we started in 2014. There's several other Los Angeles wineries that are like just trying to push the message about Los Angeles wine. And we're starting to get some people talk and say, you know, oh, Los Angeles has this up and coming wine region. And we're always flattered by that, but we always also like to remind people or correct them that that's actually not true, that we're an up and coming region. The more accurate thing would be that we're an up and coming back wine region, because most people probably don't realize that Los Angeles was actually the birthplace of California wine. Well before any of the other wine regions in the state were established, Los Angeles was the birthplace. And there's a few things that wiped it out along the way, mainly Prohibition being the big one. But the first commercial winery ever established in California was in downtown Los Angeles in 1833. And then, you know, actually the oldest vine in California, vines in California exist at Mission St. Gabriel, just outside of LA. And yeah, I saw someone's fuck Prohibition for sure. 13 terrible years. Anyways, we can rifle through the slides here, and I'll tell you a bit about the wine. This is a map of Los Angeles, the orange, or LA County rather. So you can see, oh my God, LA is really, really huge, right? You think about, when people think of LA, you think about this center here. The little stars on the map, those little red stars, represent vineyards that we work with. We source our fruit, as I mentioned. We do manage one vineyard, but we're working with fruit from Antelope Valley, which is the California high desert that you see up at the top there, out in literally the desert. A little fruit down in Bel Air, which is, you know, down here in the middle. We get a little Sangiovese out of Bel Air. A few vineyards in the Malibu Coast AVA, which is your bottom left. A little bit out of Leona Valley, which is kind of in the middle top. And then the wine tonight, we do have a little Paso fruit that we do every year that is in this wine tonight. There's a little Paso fruit blended in, and we'll talk about that. But the wine that we're doing tonight is Syrah, dominant, 75% from the Sierra Pelona Valley. And I think if we go to the next slide, we'll take a little look at
how much
that vineyard.
How much can you blend and keep the LA on the label? Is it
sure? So you can, in our wines, we classify, even though there are sub AVAs in LA. Antelope Valley of the High Desert is one. Sierra Pelona Valley is an AVA. Malibu Coast is an AVA. We actually have AVA level wines that we decide not to label as such. We want to do a macro Los Angeles labeling. So at LA County, you can actually blend 25% from elsewhere, which is quite a bit. And we actually do that only on two wines predominantly. Agenda, which we're tasting tonight, with the Tannat, which comes from Paso. And you guys who are from Paso probably are familiar with the Bella Colina vineyard, where we get the Tannat from. And then we also get a little petite Syrah out of Paso, and it's just a necessity. We would actually prefer to do nothing but Los Angeles fruit, but we can't really get Tannat. There is a little Tannat in LA, but we can't get it, and we can't get petite Syrah. So we go outside the county for varietals that we can't actually get here. But I'll take you a little closer down into this particular vineyard, because out of all the wines in our program, I would say this one is the most sort of terroir driven. We do a lot of our wines are blends from all these different varietals, and we do multi-vineyard blends from all different places. And we kind of think of I think I said our program as sort of like LA, like LA is this melting pot of cultures and ideas and styles and neighborhoods and everything else. And we sort of cherry pick the different varietals from different vineyards all over LA, blend them all together, and sort of try to envision our program as like LA, right? It's like the sum of the parts. Anyways, but of our wines, this one is the one that's very terroir driven, and I feel like I can taste the place when we drink this wine. Now, this is the Alonso family vineyard, which is out in the Sierra Pelona Valley. If anybody is familiar with where the Vasquez Rocks are, it's off the 14 freeway leaving LA. If you go north on 5, you split off the 14. A lot of LA people always say, oh yeah, that's on the way to Mammoth. That's sort of like the mental marker.
Right.
But everything that comes out of this vineyard has this sort of earthy, more restrained thing that happens. Juan Alonso is the gentleman who planted it. He's a Spaniard. He came over here in the 70s or 80s, planted the vineyard in the, I think, late 90s from cuttings that he actually brought from Spain. And everything that comes out of that vineyard has a little earthy sort of character to it. And over time, that Syrah, for me, I either want in Syrah, like what on its own, some of what I've tasted in the other wines tonight, which is either like a really deep, dark core of fruit, or I want something that's really big and structured and pushy. And the Syrah that comes out of Alonso family vineyard is a little more elegant, I think, and a little bit softer, but it's still got earthiness and acid. And that's where the Tannat comes in. I feel like the Tannat sort of takes the Syrah and puts it on its shoulders and kind of stands up, and kind of lifts the wine out of the glass in a way, if that makes any sense. I'm finding I describe wine very much with non-wine terms these days. But we also use, you might notice on the wine itself, we use a fair amount of new oak. So this wine in particular uses a bit of new French and a little bit of new American oak, which we have experimented with quite a bit. And we find that the American oak adds that sort of like sweetness, that sort of sweet note to the nose in particular, and not too much on the palate. Especially this wine now, it is has been in bottle almost 2 years. So I feel like the oak's starting to integrate quite a bit. In any case, I think I forget. I think there might be 1 or 2 more slides, maybe 1 or 2 on the wine, but otherwise.
Well, there's.
Oh yeah, there's the man himself. That is Juan Alonso.
Yeah, if you've ever been to Le Chien restaurant, that's his restaurant. He's a great guy. I've known him since my first day selling wine. I went up and met him, and he's always been a really amazing dude.
Yeah, he is. So we saw him 2 weeks ago. We took a journalist around who's writing an article for a wine enthusiast, Matt Kettman. We took him around, us, Angelino Wine Company, Cavaletti Vineyards, a couple of other Los Angeles wineries, and we took Matt on a little vineyard tour all around some of the areas and wines that we're working with. And the tour ended with lunch at Le Chêne at Juan's Vineyard. And we got there at noon for lunch. We left there at 6 p.m.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Having gone through probably 25 bottles of wine, including some aged Burgundy, Opus 1, and something else, an old, like a 1980s Chateau Montelena that he went and fished out of his cellar there after much goading by us for him to break out the good stuff. So yeah, a pretty great experience. But again, I think for us, happy to entertain some questions about it, happy to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I think, yeah, that's a picture of the Syrah at harvest, and sure, the color got bumped up a little bit in a photo, but I would say that's actually a pretty good representation of what that fruit actually looks like. And it's most of the fruit. I get so jealous of the rest of the wineries that are presenting tonight, because their fruit always looks so gorgeous in these established wine regions that are farmed professionally, and our fruit in LA always looks so embarrassing. It's like scraggly little clusters and ratty, and always looks kind of banged up and a little, anyways. So, but this is some of our best looking fruit. So we always show it when we want to show people, oh, this is Los Angeles wine. We show a picture of this because most of the other stuff looks a little dodgy.
Well, they always say the dodgier looking stuff tastes even better.
That's true. We always say to each other, if you're not a little embarrassed by the way your fruit looks, you probably harvested a little too early.
Well, I've tasted your wines now probably 5 years in a row, and you're really making some exciting wines, not just exciting for Los Angeles, but really delicious. And you do make a lot of different blends. So I would encourage you guys to be on the lookout, join his mailing list, and go along for the ride. He does a lot of tastings too. This guy works really, really hard, and he puts a lot of effort and energy into everything he does, and some really cool names and packaging, and it's just it's undentable, high quality Los Angeles wine.
Oh, thanks, Ian. Appreciate that. And I'll make sure if there's questions in the chat when we wrap up here, I'll try and sift through and answer any questions that anybody has about them. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we move on to Paso for a couple of blockbusters with Bouchon, and want to find out first of all if I'm saying that right, Jason. Is it Bouchon or Bouchon?
Yeah, Bouchon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it would be it's an Americanized version of Bouchon, Bouchon, which is basically loosely translates to cork. Or stopper in
cool.
French. Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for being pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
And thanks for being 5th on the list, but your hair looks perfect.
That's all right. I just took a nap. No, I didn't expect this to go quite this long. But actually, I just closed my tasting room, so I was doing that when I was listening to everybody.
Nice. Well, beautiful packaging. Beautiful packaging, which we will see in the slideshow.
Yep. Yeah, we're more about the packaging than pictures of vineyards. I think I need to hire a photographer or get a better camera phone, one of the two. But we're lacking on that for sure.
Well, you got some cool pictures. We'll start.
Yeah, these are. This is a picture of all of our labels. All of our labels are pretty much one-off for each wine, and then we source artists from all over the world via the internet. It's kind of cool that we get to do that. And so each one of these images in front of you is actually a different wine and a different label for the wine, as well as what's behind me on the wall. And we're going through this a little faster than I thought, but that's okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't. I thought it sounded like an optimal pause to change slides.
Oh, no.
The next one is the label of the wine that we're tasting. So
correct. Yeah. So this is Power, Corruption, and Lies. Some of my earlier wines, or a lot of my earlier wines, I'm a big music fan, a big collector of music, and I usually collect on vinyl format. And we have a lot of it in our tasting room. We have a more urban setting tasting room here in Paso. We're located downtown, more like a unpretentious lounge where you can relax and listen to music and enjoy the wines. And so this is named after an album from the 80s. It was done by a band called New Order. Actually, it's one of the first wines I ever named a proprietary name off of, and I've had a wine called Power, Corruption, Lies since 2006. This particular wine we're tasting now, I guess I should talk a little bit about myself. That was the plan here. I've been a winemaker for my entire career since I was in college. I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in Riverside. I actually made wine in Cucamonga, so I have a sort of a similar relationship to Mark there, or Brian, or the Blatty. I can't remember if it was Brian or Mark, but made wine in Southern California for 3 years for Don Galliano. And so I worked with a lot of the old vine vineyards that are in and around that area. And that is such a unique and historic area. And I was listening to him talk, and it's pretty amazing that there's actually people going back and planting vineyards and creating brands around LA County wines. In fact, you mentioned Carol Shelton earlier, and I met Carol when I worked down there and started selling her grapes for what is now her Mangazin at the time. At that time, she worked for Windsor Vineyards. It's been a long time. Hi, Carol. Haven't seen you since Orange County wine competition a couple of years ago. But,
cool.
Yeah, and then I moved to Paso in 2000 to build a large winery to the east of Paso Robles for a gentleman who was my consultant when I worked in Southern California, and I've been here ever since. So this will be my 25th harvest this year.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and congratulations on the baby, if he's still on here. That's a big, exciting time in people's lives, and so I can having a baby.
I think he bowed out because
he bowed out, but yeah, I think everyone's bowed out. Anyway, that's an exciting time, and I didn't get to, I don't remember having baby moons when I had my kids 23 years ago, but I wish that we had them. I'll take one now in place of it, but anyway. So getting,
I will argue that the fun has just begun, my friend. We just got to wine 5. Everyone's finally got color in their face.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure.
Right.
Cool. Right. All right. Anyway, so I guess we can go back to the slide, and if we go to the slide that has the label for the wine, I can tell you a little bit about this wine.
Sure.
This is a Tannat-based blend, so it's 67% Tannat, 27% Syrah, and 6% Petite Syrah. I'm a big fan of Tannat. I do both a blended version and a varietal Tannat as well. Tannat, I think, is particularly well suited to Paso Robles, and I think there's probably more Tannat here in Paso Robles than anywhere in California, without question. I source grapes from all over Paso Robles, both the east and west side. This particular wine is primarily sourced from vineyards on the east side of Paso Robles.
Okay.
The Tannat is sourced from Greg Barr's vineyard, which is in the Geneseo sub-AVA. The Syrah is from a vineyard called Aviani, which is in the Templeton Gap area of Paso Robles. And the Petite Syrah is from a dry farm vineyard, which I use primarily for 100% Petite Syrah and used a little in this blend. And that vineyard is called Lime Ridge. And it's in the El Pomar region. This wine all the lots were fermented individually. I'm not a big native yeast guy. I use primarily cultured yeast, and there's so many incredible yeast out there that are designed, for specific attributes. And so I try to take advantage of that and add complexity to the wine. So each one of these different lots was probably used a different yeast to ferment it. and then the wine was aged for about 18 months in 50% new and 50% neutral French oak. We make about 1,200 cases of wine a year, about 900 to 1,200 given the vintage. I think that's what we're averaging. This is a lot of about 150 cases, and it has 15.3% alcohol. So you can go to the next slide if you'd like. I'm going to be a little bit quicker than I think the rest of these guys.
No problem. We're just kind of at a casual pace and enjoying the conversation. I'm looking at the chat. There's quite a bit of conversations about the Tannat grape going on and the origin of that. So yeah, you might want to go onto the chat after and just kind of answer a couple questions about the Tannat.
Sure.
But go ahead, and this is your little description of the nodes, of what's happening. Are you finding that your wine's showing well tonight? Because I think it's gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, we really like the way this wine is showing. This is a pretty young wine. It's a 2018. It was bottled in September of this last year, so it hasn't had a whole lot of time in bottle. Unfortunately, I think like a lot of people, you know, COVID gave us a lot of silver linings, and one of them was we sold a lot of wine. It seemed like more people were drinking and ordering and buying wine and enjoying time at home and with family. So we've been forced to release wines earlier than we'd like, which I guess is a good problem to have. This wine, I love it. I think it's showing really nice. The 100% varietal Tannat, I was pouring both of them in the tasting room tonight. It's a little bit tighter and a little bit, could use a little bit more time in bottle than the blend here. But I think it's showing quite nice, and I'm pretty happy with the wine.
Awesome, it is. There's a particularly polished, beautiful richness to the wine. And I've not having a lot of Tannat references, and quite honestly, the Tannat references I have are, you know, the old school French Tannats that need to be 30 years old before they become drinkable.
Yeah,
this is gorgeous, man. It's got just this wonderful curvy, almost floral, and I love the description you came up with here: strawberry, raspberry preserves, herb de Provence, lavender. I think that just works perfect.
Yeah, I agree. That slide is, we tend to pair all of our wines with music. So that's a QR code that'll take you to our Spotify list that'll give you some of the music that we play with the wine. So that's just kind of for fun. But like I said, we definitely try to have a casual, unpretentious vibe, and that's a big part of it for us. So I got questions here. Everyone's concerned about rain, I guess, this year, which we are here as well. So, and I'm sure you guys are down there as well. So I buy all my fruit. I don't own any vineyard. Which I guess is a benefit and detriment to a certain extent. I don't have control over the farming, but I seem to have gathered a lot of farmers. I work with probably 20 different vineyards we make everything from sparkling Gewürztraminer to Syrah aged cream sherry for a dessert wine. So, and everything in between. So but we source all of our fruit for purchase fruit. And that's a picture of our tasting room. Kind of an artsy picture, I guess. Kind of an 80s flair to it, I guess. Maybe
what streets are you on?
We're located at 565 12th Street. We're directly across the street from Il Cortile, which is a very popular Italian restaurant here in Paso Robles, and the new Piccolo Hotel, which is one of the newest structures in downtown Paso, which is a very small boutique hotel that also has a rooftop bar that is now the tallest building in downtown Paso at a whopping 4 stories. So compared to you guys in LA, it's not that great, or not that tall, but for us, it's a big deal and has pretty amazing and cool views. Somebody just asked if I'm tube or solid state. I am full on tube. So in fact, We have 2 tube integrated amps here in the tasting room we listen to on a daily basis. Just answering that question real quick. I don't know if I'm supposed to answer those out loud. Here we go. Here's a page that tells us where we are, who I am, where we're located, our website, and we would love everyone to follow us on social media. We are on Instagram and Facebook and all those good things where we're posting as fun and adventurous things as we possibly can.
Well, thank you very much. The wine is, like I said, doing speaking volumes, and I like the imagery. I did the QR code. I pulled up the whole playlist, and that's just a really fun way to integrate, that other side of the brain that I think everybody that loves wine has a little bit of passion for music. And
I think they've done studies where, how you experience the wine is heavily influenced by not only your setting that you're in. I guess the old French expression that the wine always tastes better on the land it was produced. But they've also done studies where the music that you're listening to influences the way you perceive the wine. We kind of try to enhance that. We think it's really important to have an environment it's cohesive and very relaxing in order to really appreciate what you're doing. Enjoy life, I guess. So.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure you'll get some of us to be up to listen to some music and taste wine very soon. Thank you very much for showing us such a beautiful wine. And at $43, that's great value too.
Yeah, and I think we're offering a discount to participants in the event tonight. I thought it was on that last slide, but I think you guys have a page where you're just talking about that, right?
At the very, very top of the chat, if you go there, guys, you can click through and see all of the offers. In fact, I'm just going to do that right now. So you can see all the offers. Did everyone click to see Rhone Warriors offers there? I hope that's working.
I just got an email that had it, so
this is what the link goes to. This is our email, and so each night all the wineries have a different offer here, and please do go in and just click through and join their mailing lists and get involved with these guys. They all have great stories and unique things to pass on, and they would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, Ian. Jason, great job. Absolutely fantastic.
Cool.
Thanks for selling me grapes in Cucamonga. You've gotten me involved in a great vineyard too.
Yeah, I forgot to mention how much fertilizer I buy a year, but we'll save that for the next time. It's a lot. It's a lot of fertilizer. It's a shit ton.
That'll be the theme of the night. How much shit are you buying? Right.
Tons of shit. I'm doling out the shit on a constant basis. I'm just kidding. Anyway.
We all do. We all take it a little bit too sometimes.
Cool. Oh, there's Carol. Hi, Carol. It's been a long time. Anyway. All right. Well, have fun with Damien. Enjoy the rest of your guys' wines. Thanks for having me. Sorry I wasn't as prepared. I didn't think that this would go on for quite this long. So I was a little bit...
This is short. We're actually ahead of schedule.
Oh, really?
Party.
Right on.
No, we're right on. We're right at it.
I'm sure Damien can have enough to say for the next hour or so. So that'll be cool too.
Yeah, we won't let him go that long. But Damien, you are up, sir. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Jason and Damien.
Have a good one.
Super happy to have Brecken on board.
Well, good day, guys. Well, you might be able to tell from my accent that I'm not from around these parts, but I have wandered the world and literally made wine in Australia and Europe and even Sweden and Napa and Sonoma. And I settled here in Paso Robles. We've got this kind of moody, low-lit tasting room. So if I come across a little grainy, that's probably why I couldn't really get it to go brighter than that. And how do you follow a Tannat? I mean, a Tannat is such an awesome grape variety. I've actually planted it on our own property, and we'll see a slide of that in a minute, because it does such a wonderful thing in Paso. It's not the Tanat from Mataran that you need to lock away for 20 years before you can drink in it, and it's not the wishy-washy thing you get out of Uruguay. Tanat is the
I'll tell you
variety.
my answer, Damien, is you follow it with this tremendous Brecken, because
and let's bring up the slides. It'll remind me what I'm talking about, because it's getting a little late in the day, and I think
you Paso guys. I'll take a mental note to get the Paso guys in a little earlier. But no, seriously, last night we went on pretty far, pretty long. So I'm not pushing the conversation into the 8-minute thing probably as hard as I should. I think everyone's enjoying the pace, but you can let me know if it's getting a little long. But I'm enjoying just having that casual pace for everybody to be able to get in what they want to get in.
All right, well, there's me pre-COVID without the long hair and the shaggy beard. So maybe a little bit of a beard. So literally, I'm a hands-on winemaker, like to get my hands dirty. Here's me on the forklift. We bought the property back in 2012, and I say I'd done the wandering around the world thing, and I was also a cave explorer. So instead of climbing the highest mountain and the what have you, I'd be going the longest and deepest. And when I was traveling around the world, going to these places, a lot of them made wine. And I found this wonderful connection between these limestone or calcareous soils and the wines they produce. They're just a lot brighter, a lot more refreshing, a lot more vibrant. And so when we were looking to buy a winery, when my knees gave up from crawling around in these caves, it was the wrong time to buy in Australia. The limestone coast, and Coonawarra's on a limestone soil, Côte d'Or's limestone soil, Saint-Emilion's a limestone soil, half of Italy is a limestone soil. We settled on Paso Robles, and the reason is there is a wonderful block of calcareous soil that's about 6 miles wide in Paso Robles, and we're in that top left corner of that shaded block. So not only are you on this calcareous soil, there's a mountain range between you and the coast called the Santa Lucia Highlands that shelters you from the ravages of the Pacific storms. So we get about 22 to 25 inches of rain a year. This year we've had 16 all in one day. And you get the fog influence as well in various times of the year that cools everything down. So we're in that top left-hand corner, and if we switch to the next slide, I think this is a slide that sums it all, because that mountain range that I was talking about, the Santa Lucia Highlands, is right in front of us. Mm-hmm. And this is the Brecken Estate vineyard, and the boundary of the block of calcareous soil, which if you go up to Monterey, is only about like 100 yards wide, and it's on sort of 45-degree slopes. But down in Paso, it's on much more of these rolling hillsides. So what you have here that's the Tanat, by the way, right in front of you, that we produce. We have these rolling hills, but the hillside in the distance is not calcareous. So we're as close as you can get to the ocean while still having our feet in the limestone. And it's weird because if you remember your high school chemistry, high pHs are kind of soapy, like soap. But they produced the reverse effect in the wine to give you a very bright, refreshing, acidic wine. So this kind of sums it all. The winery, by the way, is tucked down in the bottom right-hand corner, so it's hidden in this photograph. And you can even see the fog rolling in on this photograph in the summer months. And it doesn't actually get to us, but it sits on top of that ridge, and it's like sitting with the refrigerator door open. You actually get that kind of cooling, cold air flowing down off the ridge onto our vineyard, which means we have one heck of a long growing time. And we're often harvesting in the last week of October, first week of November. You remember the frost usually hit in the second, and the rain usually hits in the second week of November. So that's our home ranch. Now we only have the one hilltop, and I do love planting hilltop wines. So I stand on the hilltop and I looked around and looked at all these other wonderful vineyards on these other hilltops around, and I went and knocked on their doors, and we saw a bunch of hilltops from around us, all about 5 minutes away by tractor. The tractor's a Lamborghini, but you know, we're 5 minutes away. You know, so essentially we're a small boutique winery, love hilltop wines. Sure, we have our foot in the Rhone camp, and spiritually I'm a Rhone guy, and I love the Rhone stuff. The vineyard that we bought had a lot of Bordeaux varieties on it, so we tend to have our foot in that camp as well and do blends of the two. But we're really just trying to cream off the best of the best. So we're, you know, the varieties that are world class in Paso will do, and there's microclimates for a whole bunch of them. So we do some really interesting blends. Moving on to the next slide, we start to look at the vineyards that are in this blend. Oh, we've lost. I can't see the thing.
There it is. How's that?
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Now the 42 is usually a blend that's about a third Syrah, a third Petit Syrah, and a third Mourvèdre. But this year, the Mourvèdre was just like bacon fat. You only needed a tiny little bit of it to sort of richen up and coat the tongue with the sort of rich complexity that we used a little less than normal. Can I move on to the next slide?
Mm-hmm.
That's our tasting room, by the way, down in that little bit. Let's skip that and move on to we won a whole bunch of awards for our tasting room, by the way. Oh, and then see, I haven't looked at the slide deck for a little while, you can tell. So the 42, the inspiration for it, I'm a Brit, and when I grew up in the UK, you know, you used to listen to the BBC. There wasn't much else to listen to. And the BBC had these radio shows at night, and then the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was this awesome radio show. The movie's not very good, but the radio shows are great, and they would take you to a different place, and it was all about, well, it was, you know, a trilogy of 4 books basically that got this huge mega computer the size of the planet Earth, by the way, to work out the answer to life, universe, and everything. And 42 was the answer to life, universe, and everything. And really sitting on that patio at the end of the day when all the visitors have gone home and the sun's setting and you've got the nice cool breeze coming from the fog, that is why we named it 42. So it really is. You know, and the bobcats are running around and the bald eagles are flying above. It really is quite nice. So let's move on to the next slide, because it's, as I said, this is a little bit of an unusual blend for us. It's usually about, if I do my Irish accent, it's a little bit of a third, or a third Syrah, a third Petit Syrah, and a third Mourvèdre. But the Mourvèdre was just so strong in 2018 that we dialed it back a little bit. Now you notice there's really just 2 vineyards in here: the Glen Rose Vineyard, which is really an iconic vineyard in Paso, and then another one from Monterey, which is actually called the Menini Vineyard, and it's only just over the county line. Paso Robles really butts up right against the county line with Monterey, and this vineyard is just over the county line, so we can't call this wine Paso Robles. It has to be called Central Coast, but it's all within just a couple of miles of the winery. So anyway, if we look to the next slide, we're going to actually look at this, the Glen Rose Vineyard, and this is not really a vineyard you drive up and down. There are these terraces. Now, the guy who planted this vineyard was originally a highway contractor. He had all the toys. He had the big graders. He had everything. So he ripped this hillside apart. And there's 3 rows of grapes on every terrace. And they produce distinctly different wines. And we're actually looking at, on the top left here is some of the Syrah vineyards. And that's about the middle of the terrace. Down the bottom, we've got the Mourvèdre, and there's also some Mourvèdre way up top. For example, to give you an idea, The top row you're probably looking at to the left of the slide is row O, and it starts at A. And winemakers fight over their individual rows. I get A, B, C, J, H, N, S, P, W, whatever. And the reason is, you know, the only way you get grapes from this guy now is you go have a lot of drinks with him. And it's a rough night, but you know, if it goes well, you get some really nice fruit out of it. And so we are actually looking at the Syrah and some of the Mourvedre. The Mourvedre lower down the slope gives you a much more sort of earthy characters. We like to combine it with the fruit from the top of the hill, which gets you much more fruit forward characters. We only do the whole cluster on the Mourvedre in years where the stems on the grapes become lignified or brown, and you go in a bunch of bins and you smell them, and they smell like Christmas pudding. If they're just bright green, we don't do whole cluster that year. So that's the Mourvedre and the Glen Rose Vineyard, and it's south facing. We night pick. It comes in late September-ish. It's a few minutes away from the winery, so it comes in really cold, whisked away. We cold soak it, we lock it away. We keep everything separate because the Mourvedre comes in a lot later. Now this is another vineyard. Now this was originally a Rosenblum vineyard, and they came down to Paso and they planted on this ridge just over the county line in Monterey all these exciting clones. They brought in clones that were unique to them. They had let's say Zinfandel up in St. Peter's Church clone up in
St. Peter's Church, yep.
Yeah, up in Mendocino. They would clean that clone up, bring it down, and they plant it on this vineyard. So what happened was when Rosenblum got taken over and became corporate, they withdrew to Napa and Sonoma, and they left this vineyard here. And so we jumped in and we picked up all these wonderful clones. So the Petite Syrah we're looking at in this blend is the farther slope, and that's the Palisades clone, which gives you a very rich mouthfeel. It's much more, sometimes in the ferment, it's even a little bit cloying, but that goes away in time. So really in the 42 here, we're combining both, and that's why but by the Petite Syrah with this rich mouthfeel, that's why we didn't need a lot of Mourvedre that year. Plus we're planting the Glen Rose Syrah. Now the Glen Rose Syrah is actually an Australian clone, and you might be able to pick up a little bit of twang in my accent because my better half is Australian, and I did my winemaking degree in Australia, or my master's in Australia. Wow. Although I was originally in the wine trade in the UK. So really that's kind of the 42 blend. There is no recipe here at Bracken. We really trying to use the full toolkit. So we have a lot of experience. We've been around the tracks a long time. We've made wine all over the place. So we react to each vineyard differently. Each vintage differently. So we also have, the slide reminds me, we're between special offers at the moment. So I can't tell you to go and jump on the line and you get 75% off shipping. So we did a special one just for you guys. When we first produced the 42, of course, it was 8 years ago now. We brought it out at $42. Now, sort of things have gone up a little bit since then, and we've, brought in better vineyards and things. So we're going back to the inaugural price for you guys. If you type in the Warrior code on our website, you have to go to www.breckenestate.com. And we've never offered that before, going back to the inaugural price. So that's it. We're basically just trying to make a very smooth, balanced Rhone blend. And it's a lot of people, some years we might put a bit of Grenache in. I think we did that one year. But most years, it's some sort of combination of Syrah, Mourvedre, and Petit Syrah. And answer any of these questions. If anyone just wants to open up and click their spacebar and ask questions, because what happens is everyone just hangs up, and then I don't get a chance to answer the chat. So if anyone's got any questions, shout out, and we'll.
Well, I know your wines from. I've tasted a lot of your Cabernet Franc wines, and they're always spectacular. And so I was really excited to taste wine with you tonight and be able to see the different. Different.
There you go. The 42's just come up. Yeah.
Cool. And you do make quite a few different wines. You are a busy man.
That's right. Well, if you've got a wine club and you're shipping, 3 times a year, and let's say you're getting 4 bottles in your club, that's 12 wines right there. And the interesting thing is, for a long time we would sell out of things like that, and we still do. But when COVID happened, what you would do is you pour a wine in the tasting room until it's sold out. But with the tasting room had been closed, we put those wines on the website. Everyone's making a really strange mix, so that the wines on the website last a bit longer than they would normally, but you're selling a much wider run of things. And so it's one of the interesting effects, is that instead of having 4 or 5 or 6 wines available, we're selling, 1.5 times or 2 times more wine than we normally do, but we end up with almost the full range available. It's quite an interesting COVID effect.
Sure. Well, and you do have a club that's shipping 3 times a year, 4 bottles each time?
There are different clubs. Yeah, there's a 2-bottle club, a 4-bottle club, a 6-bottle club, and if you're really keen, there's a case club. But we do ship 3 times a year. We basically ship March, and then nothing through the summer because it's just a little too hot in most places. We're shipping in. A lot of people do this. As soon as it cools down, September, October, we'll be shipping again, and then another one in time for the holidays. And that's a lot of wineries do a similar thing for their clubs.
Well, it's great to taste with you, and I would love to see if anyone has any questions or wants to make any comments out loud.
Let me have a quick look at the chat.
Alicia, did you have anything that you noticed?
Yes, I did notice that Nate, who has left the chat, he was asking, what is the altitude at Brecon?
Brecon tops out at about 1,400 feet, and the winery, the building I'm sitting in right now, is about 1,200 feet. The Glen Rose Vineyard is about the same, maybe slightly higher. It probably tops out about 1,500, 1,600 feet, but starts slightly lower down at about 1,100 feet. And I think the Menini Vineyard is around 1,600. The highest planted vineyards in Paso are around 2,200 feet. The highest peaks in the coastal range here are about 2,600, but they're not within the Paso appellation. It keeps changing, someone plants something higher seemingly every year. But we're going back to that manure thing. We've got absolutely no interest in putting any manure on our vineyards at all. We want the vines to struggle. We want them to have tiny crops, tiny berries that give 2 or 3 tons per acre naturally, and have to fight their way through this calcareous bedrock to produce these really intense wines. So, for us, putting manure on is a complete anathema. We wouldn't be on our radar at all. Nitrogen just makes your berries bigger, and all the flavor and the color is in the skin. So you want tiny berries to have a good skin to juice ratio. So, it just doesn't.
Do you need to do that though? Craig, don't you need to put manure in the vineyard for a few years while the vineyard's being replanted?
Well, first of all, I don't put manure in the vineyard. I put totally fermented compost. It takes over a year to make it. It's not. If you think of compost as a fertilizer, you're looking at it the wrong way. All I'm doing with compost is an inoculation microbiology. So a vine, unlike other crops, soybeans, corn, and so forth, doesn't really need a lot of nitrogen. So you don't need to do that. All you need to do is create the proper microbiology in the soil so that the vine can take the nutrients it needs, and it won't take more than it needs. So we're not looking to do fertilization by what we do.
Got it. Cool.
But aren't you, as a side effect of adding the microbiology, adding that anyway?
Well, no, you're adding very low amounts. I'm adding about 2 tons an acre on an annual basis to existing vineyard, which if you look at it, you can't even see it when it's applied. In a new vineyard, I might put in 5 tons, but it's a very low application. It's not a it's just not a high nitrogen type of application.
Yeah, and we've got this lovely little cap of clay on the top, which is only about 6 or 8 inches or maybe a foot deep, and it's super rich in minerals and great water retention capacity on the top before you hit the sort of the bedrock. So it's just not a thing around here. It's not really on anyone's radar that you would need to do.
All
that.
I'm trying to do is create an environment to build the mycorrhizal community in the soils, so that so that you can have a natural process, so you don't need to add fertilizers.
Got it. And it takes a while.
We don't add fertilizers anyway. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, but the environment's different, right? In pasta.
Yeah, I mean, different.
Absolutely.
Different things. It's just not on our radar around here at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this is, we're farming a 1 block. It's a 50-acre block. It's contiguous. It's 1 spot. So anything I would say would only be about my farm. I have no knowledge at all about the other people's farms here tonight. So I would not be making a comment on anything other than my farm.
And I do appreciate all the different comments tonight. If you guys had a good time, please let us know. We definitely enjoyed producing the Rhone Warriors. It's about showcasing the different places, different producers, different ideas, different philosophies, and I think we achieved that in a great way. The wines all were beautiful, and I will also compliment everybody. I don't know if this is just like where we're at in the business of wine, but we opened, there's 18 producers. We opened, close to 180 plus bottles of wine, maybe more. And I had 1 corked bottle, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's the part when we're pouring all these tasting kits, I am hammered by lunchtime, by the way, just spitting this stuff out. And we opened so many bottles of wine, and everything was so beautiful, and the cork world has really cleaned up their business. It's pretty astonished. I was pretty astonished by how everything was super refined that way, because years ago the cork industry was in trouble, man. There was a corked bottle in every 25 or 30 bottles, and we were breaking odds with this one. So it was pretty tremendous. I know that a lot of corks have changed, but these are, these were all really significant, beautiful, artistic bottles that are using really lavish cork as well. So it was really pretty interesting. We tasted wines from Washington, Oregon, California. In our trade tasting, we even had a couple of French guys in there, and we had Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and it was a really great showcase. I think this was a great thing for the Rhone community, and certainly for all of our clients at Wine LA and Learn About Wine. We're very appreciative of all of your time. I'm sorry it did go a little longer than we probably promoted to our winemakers, but we appreciate the large audience sticking on and staying with us tonight. I hope you had a good time, and please let your wineries know. We will keep that auction going through tomorrow night if you want to get involved. We'll send out the follow-up. Support your favorites and go and visit them when you are willing and able. They really will want to see you, and now you know who to reach out to. So with that, have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much, and have a good one. We'll look forward to seeing you at a future Zoom into Wine event, and check out our calendar for a lot of cool stuff. We're with Vince Ferragamo next Saturday, tasting Brunello di Montalcino, and we are on Wednesday in Sancerre for a virtual visit with a couple of top producers. Until then, good night, everybody.
Thank you all. Excellent.
Hi, guys.